The Journey Stories exhibit really reflects the very broad stroke of journeys here in the United States, starting out with when the first settlers came over, to how they impacted Native Americans who were already here, to the migration stories of people moving westward, always looking for something new, something better. But it's also about the innovation, the transportation that we had to develop in order to support all of these different journey stories. As a companion piece to the Smithsonian exhibit, the Eastside Heritage Center has developed 3 local exhibits: historic souvenirs, local immigration stories, and a key piece to the development of the East Side, which is the building of the first floating bridge across Lake Washington.
The first bridge across Lake Washington is really important to the history of the East Side because up until the construction of the bridge, access to from the East Side to the rest of the Puget Sound area, especially to Seattle, basically involved either taking a ferry across the lake or driving around either the north or the south ends of the lake. Community leaders and business people in various East Side communities, Bellevue, Mercer Island, etc., who recognized that the lack of a bridge across Lake Washington was an obstacle to the future growth of those communities. So beginning in the early 1900s, some of those people came together and tried to push for the development of a bridge across Lake Washington. In the 1920s, those ideas become more accepted. There is a civil engineer called Homer Hadley who proposes the idea of a floating bridge across Lake Washington beginning in the early 1930s. Hadley had worked for the federal government during World War I as an engineer designing concrete barges for the US military. So Hadley's idea of these floating pontoons built out of concrete would become the major engineering feature of the Lake Washington Bridge when it will be built in the late 1930s. The actual physical construction of the bridge began early in 1939, and the bridge would be opened officially on July 2nd, 1940. So about 18 months from start to finish of the actual construction project itself. There would be 3,000 men employed in the construction of the bridge, so particularly during the Great Depression, a time of continuing high unemployment in the Pacific Northwest, this was a significant construction project which provided plenty of well-paying jobs to people who might otherwise be unemployed in the region. So when the bridge opened officially in July of 1940, it was the longest floating bridge in the world. It was the largest floating concrete structure in the world. So it was a very significant civil engineering development in terms of its importance. When the bridge opened originally, some people were worried initially about the safety of crossing over this floating bridge. So some of the first people to cross over by automobile across the Lake Washington floating bridge actually had life jackets in their cars. So what I would see as the major points of importance in terms of the development of the bridge over Lake Washington would be the improved access that it provides between the east side of the lake to the west side, most notably Seattle. So for example, it provides farmers who are growing various crops on the east side and the agricultural communities here in the late 1930s and early 1940s, it provides them with the opportunity to send their produce to market in Seattle much more easily. Once the bridge is built, then of course it becomes much easier for people to live on the east side and to work in Seattle. The building of the Lake Washington Bridge also demonstrates the importance of cooperation between different communities and different government agencies in building these huge construction infrastructure projects like the bridge in the 1940s.
My hope is that people realize that history is a living thing. It's happening all the time, all around us, and that we all have a story to tell. Eastside Heritage Center hopes to give our community a broader perspective of how we all got here, where we came from, what those stories are, and why they make us so strong as a community. Journey Stories exhibit is at Crossroads Shopping Center from May 28th until July 10th. For more information about this exhibit and upcoming programs and how you might be able to share your story, please go to our website at eastsideheritage.org.